In a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
Hey guys, welcome. I promise no spoilers. I'm going to do a separate video where I actually talk about a movie review, which is not something I've really done on this channel. But why not? I put out a video maybe a month ago, and it was just about having seen the trailer for The Creator right before Oppenheimer came on the IMAX screen. So I got to see for the first time the movie go on the IMAX screen. And I just voiced that there was a difference that I could see in the way that image looked. And ultimately, I thought it still looked absolutely amazing. It was just interesting seeing an FX3 footage, up on the IMAX screen. I saw a difference between it and the other previews that were up of other movies, including Oppenheimer, the movie itself. There was just a difference. Now, I got some pushback on that. And then I got a lot of people that agreed with me. So look, this is going to be a mixed bag here, but let me just first off say, the movie is excellent. So I just literally saw it like an hour ago, and it's a great movie. I really recommend going and seeing it in theaters. I think that the Sony FX3 held up amazingly well. It looked fantastic. Only pixel peepers are gonna notice some differences here. And it brings me to this very interesting question about the movie. Like I said, I'm not gonna give any spoilers here, but the way that it was shot, I've never seen a movie that has the level of special effects that's put behind, like the budget behind this, that's shot so natural. So in other words, definitely there's lighting. Absolutely there's lighting, but it's so minimal in scenes. There's so many scenes that are using practical lighting that part of what I'm wondering is the difference of what I'm seeing is actually just using the camera in such a different way. So I know Garreth Edwards has talked about the 12,800 ISO of the FX3. This is an amazing thing. This allows you to use less lights. And so in filming this movie, he used that quite a bit. And 12,800 does look super clean on the camera. There's no doubt about it. But there is something that I've noticed just in footage for the Sony FX3 in general, when 12,800 is used, that yes, it's like you can see everything, but that's not the same as lighting something, right? So that what happens is that you end up with what does feel like a naturally lit shot, because it is at 12,800, but there's this slight lack of detail. I'm being so nitpicky right now. This is just because it's fun to talk about cameras. It looked phenomenal. There's no excuse for filmmakers not to be able to take these tools and make obviously the highest budget films other than the VFX and the production value. But I mean, just the cameras, there's no excuse there. The FX3 totally held up. But there's this slight level of a lack of detail that I'm used to seeing on the big screen pushed in to the max like this on an IMAX screen. Now, I was actually on the fence whether to watch this movie on IMAX or just go to a normal size screen. I decided to go with IMAX because that's what I made the video about the first time, and I wanted to see if I was accurate in that. So I literally went back to the same screen that I saw Oppenheimer. We have two IMAX screens here in Tallahassee, Florida. I went to the same one, and it looked, like I said, it looked absolutely amazing, but the way that the camera was used with so many practical lights and so much low lighting, the image itself does feel a little bit flatter, and the aesthetic really worked for the movie to feel that way in a lot of the scenes. Now on the big let me keep digging into that for a second. So because things aren't lit. Because there's not like a specific light on somebody. There is, but it's so minimal that inevitably is going to make any camera behave that way, where the image itself feels a little bit flatter, even if the aperture is being, even if it's a very low aperture for a shallow depth of field, it's still going to ultimately feel a little bit flatter than if you're lighting it and also using that technique, that aspect of your lens. That's just the result. It's going to feel a little bit flatter. So there's just this aesthetic to the movie overall that I'm not used to seeing on a big screen movie. So I don't know how much of it's just the way the camera was used more than it's actually the camera. And the reason I feel that I'm thinking about this is because during all the daylit stuff, obviously they were not using 12,800 in the daylit stuff. And to be honest, all the daylit stuff I don't know. I can't tell the difference. I mean, honestly, it looks like just as good as like a high-end camera, but I know that ultimately if you did a absolute side-by-side, we're at the same set and we're shooting with this camera and the Alexa, you know, you're going to see some differences there, but you just don't think about it in the story. And I totally get where Garreth Edwards is coming from about the way and style that you can film with such a small rig. I totally get that. So I've got these two cameras behind me. These are a couple of my cameras. I have the red Epic Dragon over here. I've got an old Sony FS700 over here, which you might think is archaic, but I am telling you, I still use this in combination with the red. I still use it in combination with the camera that I'm filming on right now, which is a Canon R5C. So I've got Canon, I've got red, I've got Sony. I am not camera... I'm not loyal to one specific brand. I like all these different brands. I'm sure I'll come back around over to Sony. Lately, I've been using Red and Canon more because that's just where I'm jiving. But things like the Sony Burano are coming out, and the Burano looks absolutely amazing, but that's a $25,000 body, okay? And it's supposed to basically be like a mini Venice camera. And the question really becomes, guys, it's like when you see a movie like that, you know, like this, and it's filmed with the FX3, where does the $25,000 body fit into it? And you don't need it. I mean, it's like an absolute. I can see it. I can see the difference as somebody that plays with these cameras and these resolutions, and there is a difference in using 6K and 8K and then downsampling to 4K, and then what you're seeing. There is ultimately some kind of little mojo that does happen with downsampling on that level, and with the FX3, it is just a 4K sensor, you know, straight up. As far as I understand it, this is a 4K camera. It's not downsampling from a 6K sensor or anything like that. And I don't know if that's part of what the resolve aspect is that I'm talking about, and a slight lack of detail is really the wrong word, but there's just less detail. And you don't feel like there's not enough detail. I'm just saying that I'm used to seeing a little bit more in the way that the skin and the detail in the faces. And I know you can pull a soft focus, but I'm saying I can tell. You can tell this is a totally tack sharp focus, but ultimately at the end of the day, I don't know in the post-processing, it's just a little bit, there's just a little bit less of that dimensionality where it's a little bit less pop in areas, but then it might be, you know, part of the way it was filmed too, you know, so with all this natural light filming. So my summary of it is just this. The Sony FX3 is an amazing camera, but this goes beyond the camera, that one camera. What this is really about is just like that you can make a movie like this with a camera that's at that scale. Because to be honest with you, you guys they could have used a Blackmagic camera and pulled this off too. Now, not on the low light department, but if it wasn't needing the low light aspect of it, I'm saying the quality, I feel confident, would hold up on the big screen just as well. The diminished returns that are happening with the more and more expensive models and bodies compared to what these little guys, these little mirrorless cameras are kicking out, is it's just shrinking more and more and more to the point where I am using my Canon R5C more than I'm using my Red. You know, I use the Red because it's an amazing camera, but there is something beautiful about having a small, compact mirrorless camera. You know, even aside from the stealth ability that it gives you in you know, certain situations where you couldn't bring this in. You know, immediately once you pull that out, where's your permit? You know, do you have are you okay to be filming here? Well, the Canon, nobody even asks a question. You know, you just kind of pretend like you're taking pictures a little bit here and there. Maybe you are taking some photos. So we're at this new point where it's just this amazing, beautiful frontier, and it's really inspiring to see a movie like this done with a camera that costs $4,000 for the body, and to see what you can do with it when the VFX teams come together and put all those VFX into it. Now, I'm looking forward to researching more about how they did the production of the movie. To be honest, I started to do that, and then I was ruining the movie. I didn't want to, I'll watch a trailer once, and I won't watch a trailer again if I've decided to see a movie, because I hate spoilers. That's why I haven't presented any spoilers in this. And so I didn't want to look up more research because I kept seeing scenes, and I don't want to know what scenes happen in it. So now that I've seen the movie, I'm going to dig deep, and I really want to know a lot more about the actual production that went in behind it. I do want to know more if they used some of the raw recording capabilities that the FX3 has through external recorders. There's a lot more that I want to know now. Now I want to see some more of the lighting setups and stuff, because I started to see shots of that and I just had to, like, no, I want the actual movie experience is more important to me than the camera. And the movie is great. And so the next video that I'm going to do, while I've got this setup going, I'm just going to go ahead and make it a separate one. I am going to talk about the actual movie. In that, there will be spoilers, and it'll say that in the title. So don't watch that if you haven't seen the movie yet. But as far as my review of how the FX3 held up on the big screen, I know I sound like a nitpicky bastard, guys. I'm just saying that I can see a difference, just like I can see a difference between my Red and my Canon, and even this FS700. Keep in mind, this was using an external recorder, and I've blended in a couple of shots that I filmed with this camera so you can see how cool. I mean, the footage still comes out insane. This thing films in 4K RAW. I mean, it's like an amazing camera. It's a hefty codec to deal with. That's one of the beauties of the Red, is how easy it is on the editing machine, because they have the rights to the way that they compress RAW, and it's just like it handles like no other RAW. 8K RAW to the Canon is a little bit atrocious and kind of like a nightmare, to be honest. But once you figure out how to work around it, and I'll do a video on that. I have a little bit of a video on that, actually, on how to get more real-time playback out of it on your PC is what I'm primarily using. Anyway, big side tangent there, guys. Go see The Creator. Whether you want to go see it for the camera aspect of it or just to go see a good movie, you're going to win in both categories. So bravo, Garreth Edwards, on an amazing film. And go Sony, and it's all fantastic. And go us, guys. I mean, this is what an era that we're living in. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.